Hey, this and just on here real quick, recapping the Thursday night game between the Jets and the Jags. And the Jets, they uh they let too many opportunities slip past. But that's really not the story of the game. You feel me? Like, I mean, if you wanna, if everybody wanna get technical and talk all, what the Jets defense did, you know what I'm saying? They they didn't get no momentum from the offense. You know what I'm saying? So eventually, even if your defense only give up 19 points, where the score really should have been a lot worse, like that was what you saw yesterday was a beatdown, but the game definitely should have got out of hand. It was a lot of missed field goals by the Jags, and just a lot of dumb plays on some of their third downs, to where they either gave the ball back to the Jets, or you know what I'm saying, they converted with a field goal. Pretty much all they was doing, after they scored a touchdown for for the remainder of the game. But this dude on the screen, and he been like, what's the word you want to say? It's easy to just say he a bum. He was overhyped. He was a guy that he never should have been drafted where he was drafted. Anybody could clearly see that. Now, if you want to go with the analogy that, yeah, mostly all the greats, recent greats, have been coming from unknown schools. You know what I'm saying? Big Ben, he came from University of Miami, Ohio. Tom Brady came from Michigan. Drew Brees, he came from Purdue. Uh, Peyton Manning came from Tennessee. Um, if you want to go years back, Brett Favre, he came from Southern Miss. Uh, Aaron Rodgers, he came from Cal. But the reason I'm running off these schools and saying that most of the time, a guy that's a top tier guy, Kirk Cousins, he came from Michigan State, but a guy that's a top tier guy or top 12, they didn't really come from a powerhouse that was winning a ton of games when they were in, when they were coming up the ranks in college, So the Ohio State quarterbacks don't normally transition that, those wins into the NFL. Those Alabama quarterbacks don't normally translate those wins into the NFL. You know what I'm saying? It's normally a guy that's from those schools that's not really known for producing quarterbacks, is the ones that, the guy has certain X factors that actually make him a a all pro, a starting quarterback in the NFL. So this guy, he came from BYU, and so everybody was raving about his this arm talent, and like, comparing it to like Mahone type of guy, as far as arm, you know what I'm saying? And he wowed them on that pro day. You feel me? And he just shot up the joints. And every year is gonna be a guy like that. Every single year. Well, last year it's gonna be this guy where you thinking like you smarter than everybody else, and you kind of disregard what you saw on tape, and you just went with the moment as opposed to like looking at the big picture. But at the end of the day, everybody making a gamble, right? So you had, Trey Lance, he shot up, even though he's kind of really raw. Like, if you saw him in school, he really didn't give enough tape to where you can confidently say like, yeah, he's a top 10 guy. And he's a guy that's like that. You feel me? Like, Mitch Trubisky, he was also like that. Nothing on tape suggested to you that he was supposed to be a top 10 guy. But GMs fall in love with who they fall in love with. And so for some reason they fell in love with Zach Wilson. But he has now shown you that he was more better suited to have maybe came to the league and watched for a year, studied, and then possibly played the following year. But to throw him in a situation where, you had the Jets and, everybody's looking at you trying to say, okay, you're gonna bring us back to prominence. And then yesterday happened. On the anniversary of 2 years ago, they suffered the worst win that their franchise, it might turn out to be, let's just say it might turn out to be the worst win their franchise ever did, was when the Jets beat the Rams and positioned themselves to be the number 2 pick instead of Jacksonville, and where they was already falling in line where they was going to be possibly having a chance at getting Trevor Lawrence. You know what I'm saying? Like, the fact that Trevor Lawrence has now started to blossom because he has he has the right coach that's coaching him up. Last year he didn't have the right coach, so he looked green. He looked like some shit. Jets fans and everybody thinking like, all right, maybe it might be a wash. Maybe both our guys is bums. They get Doug Peterson in there, and Doug Peterson, who coached up Carson Wentz. You know what I'm saying? Like, Carson Wentz was another guy. He come from an unknown school, but he had arm talent, and he was able to like with his talent and the coaching, they was able to have that phenomenal year which Wentz had before he got hurt. He was already looking like he was about to be an MVP. But in this situation right here, you can't just say okay, the defensive coaches don't produce like results as far as offense. You can't say that bullshit, because we saw that when Flacco was in there and he put up some numbers. We saw Mike White on more than just, you could say, a fluky game where he just put up some numbers, but he's shown throughout weeks, you feel me? And if these past few games that they lost, I'm gonna say, I'm not even gonna include yesterday, but the game versus Minnesota, they had a lot of opportunity, a whole bunch of opportunities to where they could have switched the momentum of the game, because they had goal positions where they didn't do nothing with it. The Buffalo game, and then last week versus Detroit, they had 3 games with back to back where they could have changed the trajectory of their season, And do you want to just put it all on the quarterback play? Some of it was, the guys looking by just the eye test, what you just posting up and you watching, they don't believe in this dude. They think they if you a fraud and you a phony and you fake, people can spot that shit. You know what I'm saying? It's not hard to see it. Even if you might be a slick talker and you might fool people, sometimes the people that's like really got that eye, and they select people, you know what I'm saying, they have that where they can just like hear how you spitting it and say, man, this dude full of shit, right? And so this dude right here, he full of shit. Like, you see that. You feel me? Now, the Jets gonna have to figure out what they gonna do going forward, because you got a solid defense. Like, that's all a young dude really need. If you got a solid defense and I can see if he's working with nothing on the skill positions. The Jets is one of the few teams that actually can go deep at the running back position, and they actually want to run the ball, right? So you got Knight, right? But before Knight was Hall. And then behind Hall was Carter. And then Knight is just coming up the ranks because Hall is hurt. And then they made a trade for James Robinson. So they 4 deep in the running back position, which is rare in the NFL that you can go that deep. But that's how deep they are at the running back position. Wide receivers, if they have a coherent quarterback, a Jimmy G, or possibly even a Aaron Rodgers, if he becomes available, you go to a team like that. They already got Garrett Wilson, who look like if you make him a volume receiver, he can be that dude. Elijah Moore is not no slouch. He already was showing like signs that he was going on an upward tick. You feel me? And then they still have Corey Davis, who's always been that guy where, if you negate the injuries, he always been that guy like, yeah, this is gonna be the season that he pop or whatever, right? So you go all the way to Corey Davis. Then you go to the tight ends. You got CJ and you got Conklin. So right there, that's enough. If a quarterback is semi, know what the fuck he doing in the head, he could work. You know what I'm saying? He could put up some Dak Prescott kind of numbers. He could put up some Kirk Cousins type of numbers. He could put up some Derek Carr type of numbers. Because at least he got the people that he could work with. You feel me? Now, if he go and make a dumb interception in the fourth quarter, cost you the game, then, hey, it is what it is. But at least, talent-wise, if your quarterback can throw the ball, you can you can put up some numbers, you feel me? And it ain't gonna be just on garbage time, and you could tell, like, when the coach seen it, and they say, ain't no way you supposed to have a strong ass arm and you can't never hit a receiver in stride. Like that them two don't go together. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was probably one of the reasons they sold, because they know how the dumbass winds come in that region in the winter time, in the fall time. So we need a guy that's gonna be able to cut through the wind. And if you got an arm and you still can't get it to none of your people, you can't even you don't even give them a chance to catch chest passes and shit, right? Never nothing where they can catch it and run with it. Last week was his better game, so you give him props for that. But then he followed it up with this big ass stinker. It don't make no sense. And so you can see why the people was frustrated, and they started booing and let him have it, because they were like, even the coach, he tried to believe in him and he tried to say all the good game. You know how you try to gas somebody up, but then even he's saying like, man, I know what it is. Like you can know, because you been around the sport long enough to know if somebody got it, if they don't. So you look at the shit. You had third down conversions. The Jets was 2 of 13. The Jags was 7 of 16. On fourth down, they was 1 of 5. In total plays, it was 56 to 71. Total yards was 227 to 365. You feel me? Like, time of possession, 25 minutes for a team that wants to run the ball and shit like that. They facing the Jags, and the Jags defense is cool. It's been getting better as of late. Yeah, they've been getting wins, but they still been torturable for most of the year. They still, even though they won on Sunday, they gave up a ton of points. Even though they beat Tennessee the week prior, they still gave up a ton of points. So now you telling me all of a sudden out of nowhere, now they just locked down and shutting every shit down? Like, nah, it's who they up against. 25 minutes, 34 minutes. You ain't gonna beat nobody. You know what I'm saying? You look at Zach Wilson number 9 of 18, 92 yards, an interception, and the coach said, I'm done. Now the coach made a mistake where the game was still within reach, and he went to the young boy, you know what I'm saying, Stravler. And Stravler came in, he was 10 to 15, 90 yards. But he just made the offense look like it had a heartbeat and shit, because Zach Wilson, it was like everything was just like you shaking, you just tossing your hands up and saying like the all that offense is not that bad. I'll get it. They lost they left tackle, and so I don't know whether that's all the way affected they run blocking, but I mean you looking at they look running ball. They only attempted 20 times, got 66 yards. You know what I'm saying? Michael Carter had 2 for 66. The backup quarterback had what 9 carries for 54 yards, but for some reason when he was running the ball, he was picking up some yards. So it was like they got away from the run game too quick. They didn't give Knight no touches. He just got a few couple of negative plays and they just was done with him and shit. But it's like the Zach Wilson shit kind of sucked the air out of the offense to where when the backup dude came in, it's like everybody kind of got some energy back. But for them first couple of quarters, they just they didn't have no energy and shit. And it's like you kind of playing with your playoff lives on the line, and you on up against a team that's this your first time on prime time, so you like okay, you going to show out, but that they didn't do nothing. Michael Carter, he had the most yards, 5 receptions for 44 on 5 targets. Garrett Wilson had 9 targets, 4 for 30. Elijah Moore had 3, 2 of 15, and Corey Davis had 7 and 2 of 14. It was a disaster. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Garrett Wilson, he lost a fumble. But you look on defense, they only had 1 sack and 6 QB hits. But the defense gonna lose its spot. Even though Quentin Wilson came back, they just couldn't do nothing because they didn't have no energy. The offense wasn't giving them nothing to like be excited about. And I know it's weird that you shouldn't have to need another person in order to get you up, but in that situation, how everybody have definitely tilted toward they fuck with Mike White heavy. With Zach, is like Zach literally needed to come with that same shit that he came with last week versus Detroit. At least if they would have got some performance like 250 yards, 225, maybe they in the game and shit like that. But you only come out there and you give them less than 100. And I'm about to look to see if Jags was sacked. I mean, they only got three sacks on them. So they kind of, I ain't gonna say they quit, but they just like, this guy ain't it. Trevor Lawrence, he went out there, had 229, 20 and 31. He ain't had no touchdown passes. Running the ball though, that's where their money came. They ran as a team for 147 on 39 carries. Not the best average, but Etienne, he had 83 yards running the ball on 22 carries. Lawrence, he chimed in with 7 for 51 and the touchdown. Receiving the ball, Evan Ingram, the guy who was perennially hurt every year, but what good thing he went to a place like where he kind of remember his roots. He came from that Florida Gator and stuff like that, and so these past few weeks he's kind of been balling out, so you got to give him much respect. And maybe now he's finally got over the injury bug, but he was 7 he had 7 receptions for 113 yards and shit, so that was like, I think might have been one of his better games of the year. Trevor Lawrence, he lost 1 fumble, and but yeah, I mean you just gotta just call a spade in this situation. Zach Wilson, he just, they gotta have the same energy. Like I said, if you willing to just say, okay, Baker Mayfield, that everybody done with him and piling on him, he gotta get the same energy. You know what I'm saying? At least with Baker Mayfield, with Mitch Trubisky, with Carson Wentz, at least all of them have shown to when you gave them certain position players, they made plays to where they got their team at least in the playoff hunt, you know what I'm saying, or took them to the playoffs. This dude right here, he lost his confidence, and I said that a few weeks ago, and I was like, they had position players are where they should do phenomenal, phenomenal things as far as like yardage and touchdowns, but it was based upon, who the quarterback was. When Flacco was in there early on, he could put numbers. Like, truth be told, if they would have inserted Flacco maybe instead of the young boy, maybe Flacco could have came back and made it more of a either a respectable loss or possibly could have even got the game. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, you can move the ball on Jacksonville, but for some reason, Zach just, like I said, if you can't hit nobody at all, you know what I'm saying? It's like that, like all the announcers keep saying, like he make the easy shit look hard, then you ain't the guy, and so, like I said, hopefully everybody give him that same energy as far as like, yeah, his accuracy is not even at 60%, so it's like, what did they even see in order to make them want to draft him? It makes that pick look like one of the crazier picks in the more recent history, But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. All right, thanks for listening.